Good evening, Lirazo. Okay, I only have to make it through 80 cards. Not so bad. Not so bad. Okay. So, full disclosure, I have not slept. I know I'm ready to sleep, but I need to do this before I sleep. So that's the thing. I can actually sleep now, and I'm in my sleep shirt. It says, "Houston, I have so many problems." It's my space sleep shirt. And so I don't know why I tried sleeping, it didn't work. So I just, I had a lot of work to do to start with. There was a little bit of panic in the Discord about the early access tomorrow and the tokens that we need and so on and so forth to be able to do it. And then I also had to create a graphic for the early access, and I had to do just a bunch of other work as far as like tutoring and things like that. So by the time like I wanted to sleep, my body was just like, no, we're doing things. So I got up again and just decided to I'm just like, okay, I'll just do the rares and mythics. I'll be out of my mind, but that might make it more entertaining. We'll see. I might also just stare at some cards for years and then it'll be fine. Hey, remote error. So yeah, we'll just be doing the rares and mythics and stuff. And then, if I feel like a draft, I'll try and do a draft, but I'll probably just go to sleep. And then I will be up early and might do some drafts before the actual release of the early access at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I might actually get some sleep. It would be good. So, all right, we have this Astelli Reclaimer. This is the first of the rares that we're presented with. So we'll do it on this for now because it's pretty. Okay, so 5 mana for a 5/4 flyer. So we've obviously in the past had 5 mana for a 5/5 flying first strike, protection from dragons, lifelink. In the past at Mythic, of course, that's the angel, Banefire Angel or whatever it is. What was it actually called? Okay, hold on, let's do Scryfall again. So Balefire. Or was it Banefire? I forget. But anyway, the thing. I can't type though right now. Anytime. Really, I did type. You could all hear it. Okay. It might be Bane. I'm part of this might be I just might make up names in my head because I'm so tired. What was the frickin' angel? Okay, let's give me okay. Just give me all the angels you've got. There's a ton of them. There's a few angels in Magic, by the way. They're not a particularly popular typal thing. They're Baneslayer, that's what it is. Baneslayer. Okay, so flying first strike, lifelink, protection from demons and from dragons. Yeah, remote singing. I've got that. Hey, Dig Dug, how you doing? So 5/5 flying first strike, lifelink, protection from dragons. We have that as Mythic in the past. We've had a lot of different 5 mana angels, and they've all been very, very powerful since then. This one is a 5/4, so you have 1 fewer toughness here. And let's see what you get for that at rare. So we have when this creature enters, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this creature. Okay. And it has Warp 3. So on the Warp 3, you can return target non-creature, non-land permanent card that has 3... that costs 3 or less to the battlefield. So if one of your enchantments has died, or if an early creature has died, you can get it back. And And then later on, you can recast this once it's bounced back. And you can play it again, and this time at least 5 mana, unless it's discounted somehow. Hey, Phoenix, good evening! So unless it's discounted somehow, in which case you'll be spending... It's important to note that, again, the crystal effect, like we're talking about, is something that decreases its cost and therefore decreases its effectiveness in the play. So like the X is smaller. Hey Phantom, how you doing? I have not slept still, so I am completely loopy. And I apologize for that in advance. But yes, so this is a very silly card. It also, again, because that crazy warp cost, it can power your station your spacecraft pretty well. So this is a very good card. Obviously, a 5/4 flyer for 5 is, fine stats anyway. And then if you get this extra value off of both the stationing and the warping, that's just nutty. So, that is, yeah. Like you do. So that's a hell of a card. The 4 toughness is interesting because we did see the bombard in this. In the commons and uncommons. So if I go into the advanced and I go back into the commons and uncommons, and we go back to Edge of Eternities, and we search for these options really quickly, we sort by color, and then we go to the red because I want to be able to look up that up for there. We have the 4 mana bombard right here at the start. So 4 damage to target creature. Bombard can in fact take care of this when you warp it or when you then replay it. So it does die to red's removal, which is interesting and probably important. So and it dies to the cut propulsion, it dies to the bombard, and that's key. It does not die, of course, to plasma bolt even on its void version. It's only 3 damage. But it's very important that this probably dies to the red, because I don't think otherwise red has many ways of dealing with it. So, not many flyers and only a few reachers that die to, as far as we've seen, they've got 5 toughness, some of them, and they might get bigger, but yeah. So, this card, I'm going to currently, I don't know what we're going to be getting eventually, so my normal thing of like upper high to middle high to lower high is going to be S tier. That's the top of the thing. That's like ultimate bombs. A plus, which is like whole crap, slam that card, is really, really good, but it's not quite the level of those S tier. And then A's, which some of the best uncommons reach. I had like 1 or 2 that were A's that we call like mythic uncommons, but this is, and so those are some things you would take over some of the rares, and some rares go there, and some rares go into the upper mid, which is the B plus tier. So this one, for now, I'm going to give this an 5 mana 5/4 flyer with warp 3. Does this thing? I'm gonna go with I don't know how to rank this yet. It's not an S tier, I don't think. I don't think this is an S tier card. I think it's very good. I don't think it's S tier. I think it's going to be an A or A plus, but I'm leaning toward the A right now because I don't know what kind of stupidity they're going to do, but it could just be an A plus. It's just a really good card. You take it out of the pack and you put it down, but there will be some rares that are better than it. I'm going to label it as an A plus for now, and then move on because I think it's a very good card. So I think it's an A plus. I don't really want to label it an A, but I got to see what they have for us. Okay, exile all creatures and spacecraft. We got a Wrath, but it's an exile at 5 mana. That's gonna ruin some games. Okay. Yeah. All right, you've got a Wrath at 5 in this format. We've had Wraths at 5 in the format, in many formats before. Actually, I'm going to do yet another tab here with Scryfall because I want to keep those, the rares in Scryfall and the unknowns on comments here. So if I go into advanced, actually, no, let's just search for the ones that I know by name. So Fumigate, for example, was a Wrath at 5. It was destroy all creatures, and it gave you 1 life for each creature destroyed this way, which is a really good. So one of the things that one of the downsides to wraths that are board wipes as opposed to single-sided board wipes is the fact that you spend the 5 mana, and then the opponent gets to play first, essentially, after that. Obviously, you are supposed to time these. In an ideal world, you time these appropriately such that they've run out of most of the gas in their hand and they don't have a way of coming back quickly. However, there are times when you just have to, throw the wrath out there, eliminate some of your creatures and eliminate some of theirs, and you just don't have a lot to follow it up with. But you also are on the back foot because they're taking the first turn after that. There are some wraths that have, tried to fix that by giving you another advantage, right? You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way is one example with Fumigate. We have, of course, long ago, before they decided this was a terrible idea, we had Wrath of God, which was the original Wrath, so-called. This gave it the term. So we have a lovely... first time I saw it would have been in revised, which would be, this is 4th, so this should be revised. No, that's 4th. What? Hold on. Oh yeah, because in 1995 there. This is. I need this. Yeah, this is mine. So hi Cyrus, how you doing? So this is the original Wrath. Since then, right, they've decided that that's a terrible idea to print 4 mana Wraths in limited. It just doesn't lead to very interesting games. They did a color shifted version of this, which was Damnation. This was printed in Planar Chaos, I think, originally. Yes. And so this was the next version of that, essentially. Then they started printing all sorts. They had all sorts of Wraths going on. Oh no, I'm sorry, Cyrus. I'm so happy you're here, but I'm so sorry about the pain. I hope we can take your mind off of it a little bit. We then had things that would be more expensive, that would give you another way to go about things. This was from Scourge, I think. Or was that Torment and the Scourge? No, that's not Torment. I know it isn't, but is it Legions or Scourge? I think it's, oh yeah, Scourge right there. So you started to see Wraths that did things that were more expensive, but that gave you a little bit of, back for doing whatever it was you were doing. Or they were conditional, like Mutilate and things like that. And this was Torment. So this was just shortly after there. Odyssey, Judgment, Torment. Then we had Scourge and Leeches after that. So this was before, I think, actually. But yeah, so we've had a lot of different, Wrath type effects, and more recently we've seen a lot of Wrath effects that are on 5 and 6. So we've seen, is it Fiora? I forget what it was. Is it Fiora? Anyway, let's see if something has the name Fiora in it. There it is, Invasion of Fiora. That's what it was. So destroy all legendary or destroy all non-legendary or do both for 6 mana. So this one could potentially be a one-sided Wrath if you had all legendary creatures and your opponent had an all non-legendary, or you could choose what it was more beneficial to you or more beneficial to them. Then they printed something stupid. Absolutely dumb, where it exiled all creatures instead of just destroying them, so you couldn't get them back from the graveyard. You got no benefit from them dying or going to the graveyard that way, and your opponent also got a massive creature to follow it up with, to pay 2 for, to pay 2 to mobilize and just throw at you. So this was a stupid and mostly hated card. This was Sunfall. Then we also had this one, which also exiled and could be a one-sided in depending on whether your opponent was running like mono enchantments and artifacts, etc., versus your creatures, and so on and so forth. This was Neo. Should be down here, yeah. So this is Farewell. And so now what we have is a back to 5 mana, because apart from Sunfall, the more recent Wraths have been 6 and up, I think. But now we're back to 5 mana, and it does exile. But it goes creatures and spacecraft. It doesn't do enchantments. It doesn't do planeswalkers. I mean, we've never really done planeswalkers in the past. So that's interesting. But it does creatures and spacecraft, so it is a Wrath. It's on 5. It exiles. It does not have them dying, so some of your triggers aren't going to work very well. So, I mean, we've had a few dying effects. But yeah. So this card, it used to be that in any set where you were aggressive in your deck build, you did not want a Wrath. You would rather any creature or any spell other than a Wrath in your deck, just to make sure that your game plan was executed. So for example, if you were in Boros, which was the archetypal aggressive deck, you would want no Wraths. You wouldn't want a Wrath, except insofar as it could do something else, like this card. So aggro decks were perfectly fine running Burn Down the House, because Burn Down the House has an alternate mode wherein you can create the 3/1/1 red devil creature tokens and throw them at the opponent, and even if they die, they're still going to deal damage. So this was a perfectly fine thing to run in an aggro deck. Usually you didn't want Wraths. These days, Wraths function for me as something that I call the oh crap button, where I need to reset things. Because even if I have an aggressive start, sometimes the opponents just got out faster and better, and I can't handle that. There's a lot of times in recent sets in which just being on the play is such a huge advantage that you have to have some sort of oh crap button, where you can't just answer the threats one for one, where if you stumble a little bit, you are just going to die unless you can do a wipe like this, right? So these days, even in my more aggressive decks, especially in best of one, I will be fine running a Wrath. There will be times where I'm punished for it, where all I just need is one more creature to finish off the game, right? And then I'm steadily losing, the advantage over time because this is what's in my hand, right? A Wrath. And I don't want to use it because I just need one more card, right? But on the whole, I've been I'm pretty much now of the opinion that you can still that you can suddenly, now that cards are so powerful, you can run a Wrath in a best of one aggro deck, just because, again, you sometimes just need it. It's just, are you on the play, right? Games can be decided based on that these days a lot more frequently than used to be. And so, you just might need that oh crap button. And so you can let your opponent execute their game plan. You can try and take them by surprise. Oftentimes it's a difficult balance to play out just enough that they don't play around a Wrath. And then and balance that with the amount of extra damage you're taking, right? So and the amount of resources you're losing if you contribute to the board as well. But you don't want to just telegraph it completely. So it's a really, having to, figure out how to play the Wrath well is a very interesting set of decisions to make. And but I am of the opinion that you can run this in any white deck that has a decent commitment to white. Obviously, it's double white. I don't splash this card necessarily unless my mana's really good. We do have the lander tokens, but I would be still careful about that. But if you're in a white deck, even if it's slightly aggressive, I think I might be running this Beyond the Quiet. So I think this one's an A+ as far as, it's just a powerful card, and it, it oftentimes is going to be something you have to do because it's a an oh crap button. So A+ for the oh crap button. It's roughly on par with this, same thing, and moving on. But that would be my explanation for why I would take it at that point. And even I would take it in a controlling deck, and I would take it in an aggro shell sometimes too. Ooh, that's good. Yay, tea. No caffeine in this tea. I think I might have overdone it with the last stuffs. All right, Cosmogrand Zenith. 3 mana 2/4. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose one, create 2/1/1. Okay. I too try to expand my grip on the edge. It's just the edge of sanity, not the edge of eternity. So, okay. Anyway, stunning artwork. This is a very powerful card. From what we've seen from the commons and uncommons, it should be fairly straightforward to at least get a couple triggers of 2 spells per turn. Yeah, flurry, yeah. So it should at least get you a couple pieces of value, and for you to get a couple pieces of value out of this, 2/1/1 white, and then +1/+1 counter on each creature, that means this is a 3/5 and you 2/2/2s. 2/2/2s. Only in Magic. Okay, anyway. And ballet. When Universes Beyond Ballet set coming. Okay. Sorry, stretchy. Oh, snap, crackle, pop. Okay, so, I think this card is very good. It dies to most of the removal in the format. Not all, but most. But at 3 mana, that's not so bad because most of the removal costs around that removes it. So it's a very good card. I'm betting you can get value out of it. Because you do need to do some work to get value out of it. It doesn't make it to an S tier. I'm not even sure it makes it to the A+. I think it's an A. I do think you can activate it pretty readily, and I'm like, I like it because it's really good early game, so, and if you can cast double 2 spells, you can broaden your board. If it's late game, you can put the +1/+1 counters, right? And you can do each subsequently. And Warp enables it really well, and we do have a lot of like 1 and 2 mana spells. But you don't like a preponderance of 1 and 2 mana spells can be a little bit difficult because you can't refill your hand fast enough necessarily to make that all work out. I'm gonna give it an A, but I could be absolutely wrong about this. It could be an A+ card, and I should just slam it every time I see it. It's just, again, this is a 3 mana 2/4 that requires some things to go right to get real value, other than being a 3 mana 2/4. As I say 2, I mean 3. 3 mana 2/4. It requires some things to work. Neither of these require anything to go right to be good cards. So same thing. So I'm gonna give this an A as opposed to the A+ that I gave these two. Exalted Sunborn. Well, this is going in my Risk Populate deck. Jesus. They're just printing Anointed Procession on a stick for so many things these days. Okay. All right. So, Elspeth. So, if 1 or more tokens be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. This is the sort of original sort of effect of this in white. We've had it in green prior. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. So we're just starting to see them attach this to a lot of things. They attached it to the Planeswalker Elspeth that I just showed you. They attached it to Mondrak, Glory Dominus. If 1 or more tokens would be created twice instead. They even did Ohertak. Sorry, this is a little slow. What was it? Something else. Yeah, okay, sorry. I put a K instead of a Q. My bad. So this one's 3 times as many. So we're just seeing a lot of creatures onto which they're tacking the Anointed Procession slash double, like triple effect onto creatures and planeswalkers these days. And this is really interesting. It's always a very powerful effect in Limited. It's always a very powerful effect in Constructed as well. So this card is a 5-mana flying lifelink 4/5. Again, that's not impressive. We've shown you the Baneslayer Angel that was many, many, many years ago. But what is impressive is that if one or more tokens were created, twice that many are created instead, and you can warp it in for 2. So that's dumb. We've seen a lot of token creation in the form of the lander tokens, in the form of the robot tokens in this set. So that's terrifying. It also combos nicely with this card, such that you make 4 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. If you warp this in on the next turn and play another spell, for example. So this card, being a 4/5 flying lifelink, doesn't get through a select few red uncommons and commons. So it doesn't get through this, which is a 4/5 with reach that can get bigger. And there's like 1 or so others that it doesn't get through that have reach in green. It does get through the remnant. So there are a few things that can block it in red and green. There's nothing that can profitably block it in black. There is something that can profitably block. There are a couple things that can profitably block it in blue. At the common and uncommon range. But the fact that it has lifelink should make up for that, and the fact that it has this other ability should make up for that. I am less excited by this card than Elspeth. Elspeth is an absolutely stupid card in Limited. And here's why. She not only has the Anointed Procession on a stick, but she takes advantage of it herself. And she protects herself that way. So if she creates a 1/1, she creates 2 of them. So if you are doing anything else that creates tokens, you get even more of those, right? So this card is stronger than this card. By far, obviously. And that does make sense. They're both at mythic level, but they're not the same. We are not the same. However, we're not given the option of Elspeth in this, and therefore we are given an option of this. I think that I'm going to still put this in the A+. I don't know what's going to be S tier yet. I may revise this. I'm still going to put in the A+ for now. But it is a strong card. I'm going to still put it with this Reclaimer. They are roughly equivalent, except one has lifelink. Currently, even though the 1 or more tokens, blah. This one demands to be answered sooner, just because you're going to get more value off of it in the longer run. The more it stays out, the more tokens you can produce. And the fact that it has lifelink and 5 toughness does make it better in this set than this, because the 4 toughness again dies to that red common, Bombard. And again, the getting stuff back from your graveyard is really sweet, as well as playing a 5-drop. That's crazy. But yeah, onto the battlefield, not just into your hand, onto the battlefield. So, but these are roughly equivalent in my mind currently. I think the Sunborn just has a slight edge, but like it's not that large. So I'm going to keep it as an A+, and I might be evaluating that more later. Okay. Now we have Halia, Guided by Light. And if it's supposed to be like Halia, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing anything or in any other way. I apologize. But we have a 3-mana 3/3. Whenever it or another creature or artifact you control enters, you gain 1 life. Oh. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn. So we have a slight life gain synergy. Okay. So, so right now what we have here is something that was started a long time ago with a very, very long time ago. Oh God, we've got so many wardens now. Oh God, I didn't even consider that. Anyway, this was the color shifted version of it, Essence Warden. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. But we have a Soul Warden somewhere down here. So this was sort of the original version of like, whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So this is not you control. This was anybody's creature. And it was very powerful in certain formats. It changes so much math in a limited game. And they eventually said whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield, they started doing things like that. And they started making some really cool cards with it, with 2 types of effects with it. So, Suture Priest, right? Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you can have that player lose 1 life. So they had various versions of it all the way up here. So now we have Halia, Guided by Light, 3 mana, 3/3. So that's not necessarily when you want to start getting this effect. But it's not bad either, because you can warp it in, right? And cast another spell, for example. That's a really cheap warp cost, so it does enable double casting. And then whenever it or another creature enters, you gain it or another creature or artifact, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn. That is very strong. In a dedicated life deck, or in a deck that you're multi-spelling / casting multiple creatures and artifacts per turn. Obviously not like just normal spells like damage spells and things like that. But the incidental of being able to draw a card is pretty cool. There is a removal spell that I think we saw in white that does gain 3 life, I think it was. We have a few lifelink creatures in black. I remember like 1 or 2. It was a 2/3, I think, lifelinker. So this one was the Menace one. We have a gain life off the food token here. That's one way to do it. Here's the lifelinker, the 2/3, the Comet Crawler. This one can become a 2/2/0, so it can gain you the full 4 life, so over 3 in a turn that it attacks. That's one of them. I believe there was a gain 3 to destroy target tapped creature. Yeah, here. You gain 3 life off Radiant Strike. So there is a way to do that as well. So there's a little bit of incidental life gain randomly inserted in this. I haven't seen that many lifelinkers overall, and I haven't seen too many life gain spells, or just a few incidental life gain things. She is clearly meant to trigger this all on her own. And I am assuming her gender. Am I assuming incorrectly? Eep. Okay. Anyway, I apologize if I'm assuming incorrectly. But yeah. Anyway, so this card is meant to do this on its own, basically. It's meant to function on its own, such that you can occasionally draw a card from just playing spells, and that's pretty darn good. It's still a 3/3 for 3, right? But you has that warp cost that can enable the double spells for the rest of the deck, which is pretty sweet. The life gain is substantial for what you're doing. I'm still going to give it an A. I don't think it's as good as the Exalted Sunborn. I don't think it's as good as Beyond the Quiet or the Reclaimer. I think it's probably on the level of the Cosmogrand. This might be a little bit better, but I think they're still roughly at, a similar idea. All right. Hard Light Containment. 1 mana, enchant artifact you control. When this... Oh, okay. Okay, so we've had similar effects to this as well in the past. So, Chained to the Rocks is enchant mountain you control, and when Chained to the Rocks enters, exile target creature an opponent controls until Chained to the Rocks leaves the battlefield. So this one's enchanting a land. We've had other things in the past that have been more mana that in like Mom, I think it was, or something like that, or New Phyrexia, where like Ossification or something like that, there where you enchant a land for 2 mana and exile the creature. In this case, though, you're actually, rather than enchanting a land, you're enchanting something a little bit more vulnerable in this set. You're enchanting an artifact that you control. And given the fact that we've seen so we've seen Drill Too Deep, which destroys target artifact for 2 mana. We've seen in green, we've seen not Close Encounter. Where'd it go? Bidoo boo boo. Siege Ship Impact. Hey, Astros! Welcome, welcome, welcome! We've seen Siege Ship Impact, which destroys target artifact or enchantment. We've seen Shattered Wings, which destroys target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Welcome, welcome, welcome! How are you doing? How was your stream? I hope it was lovely. Hello, hello, hello. So, given that we have seen, 3 separate destroy target artifact spells, right? And we've definitely seen a cheap, like between 2 and 3 mana here, right? But we've also seen in white, we've seen bigger ones, right? We've seen obviously Banishing Light. We've seen Seam Rip. Those are both non-land permanents, right? And we've seen the 4 mana Radiant Strike, which destroys target artifact. Given that we've seen that, this rare is a little scary. I'm good. How are you? I'm still dying of like being tired because I didn't sleep, but that's on me. How are you? Diamond 4, were you doing draft or like constructed, or were you doing something else? Draft or limited? Tired but good. Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow with the early access. That'll be fun. But yeah, so this one seems to me to be a little bit of a risk. It is only 1 mana as an investment. And it does have Ward 1. The permanent has Ward 1, so whatever they pay, they're gonna have to pay 1 extra to kill it. The fact that there are so many artifact and enchantment removal pieces in this makes me worry about running this card. And a couple of those, at the very least, are instant speed, which means that they can, destroy this and get their creature back to block right away, and maybe blow out your attack. Constructed tonight? Nice! Combo shenanigans. I'll have to ask about the deck you were running. Let me know, because I want to know what combo decks people are running at that point. But yeah, so this one worries me to run. It just worries me. It worries me. There are more destroy artifact spells than there are destroy enchantment spells. So running this worries me more than running Banishing Light or the other white removal that is enchantment based. This thing, right? Enchant artifact you control. There are just so many destroy artifacts effects, and a lot of the artifacts are creatures, and it just worries me. It worries me. So I'm gonna rate this as a, you know, a B or B plus, as opposed to anything in the upper tier of the rares. I think this is a fine removal spell. It is a worrisome removal spell because it is so vulnerable. It's more vulnerable than the commons. It's cheap and it protects itself just a little bit, but it's more vulnerable. So that's my feeling on this one. Lightstall Inquisitor, 1 mana 2/1 vigilance. When this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each spell cast this way costs 1 more to cast. Each land plays this way enters tapped. Okay, so this is a variation on our normal 3/1 flyer dude that taxes. We've had a lot of various things that taxes. The one that's best is there's gonna be too many. Okay, so we've had one version in the form of the Peacekeeper, which, you know, chooses a card's name and makes them cost 2 more to cast. The best version of this, though, is a flyer. Where is my baby? It's Elite Spellbinder. Paolo. PVDDR. Okay. Okay. So, Elite Spellbinder is the best version of this so far that's been printed from Strixhaven. When it enters the battlefield, you look at their hands, you exile a non-land card from it. As long as it remains exiled, the owner can play it, and it costs 2 more to cast. So, this is another spell that taxes an opponent for playing a card, basically. It interrupts an opponent's game plan. But hello, cat. Yes. Hi. More on this in a second. Are you quite finished? I love you. Okay. So the difference actually is here. You don't get to see their hand. This one, right? Look at target's opponent's hand. That is valuable information on a 3 mana 3/1 flyer. That is hugely valuable information. Not only are you taxing a card, but you get to choose which card it is, and you get to see their hand. This one, they get to choose the card, right? And you don't get the information of their hand. So, it's not the same thing. We'll put it that way. However, take a look at the casting cost, and take a look at the stats, and take a look at the abilities. This is a 1 mana 2/1 vigilance. Already, you know, we're outclassing a bunch of So Savannah Lions gets to continue to eat its heart out. Poor Savannah Lions, which was here all the way since Alpha. This is one of the best creatures, and now they're just printing 2/1s that do everything for 1 mana. So anyway, this card is very good. So again, when you play a land this way, enters tap, that's like costing one more, essentially, right? Hey, Certified, how are you doing? So this card is very, very good. It does enable the double spelling synergies. It does interrupt your opponent at least a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And it doesn't matter because it's still a 2/1 vigilance for 1. That is an annoyance. The one thing that I do want to point out is that it's an angel wizard, but it doesn't fly. There are very few angels in Magic that do not fly prior to this set. So it's worth understanding that, just remind yourself it don't fly. This one, it won't be hard to remember that, but this doesn't fly. I'm going to give this an A, as opposed to an A+. Just because in limited, 1-drops tend to be a little bit less crazy than in constructed. They're a little bit less impactful. They're still impactful. This is still a really good card. But if I had to choose between guaranteeing myself this card on 1 or guaranteeing myself this card on 5, or this card on 5, or this card on 5, I'm going to choose the 5-drops. Yeah, it's not a card that wins the game by itself, just has a very high impact to cost ratio. Exactly. For them to remove it or trade with it is going to require some work. It also just, gets value. It's what it is. It gets value. It gets, in terms of like double spelling, in terms of just having a blocker early, for, a 2/2 that's coming in on 2, like to get your 1-mana investment for their 2-mana investment and a card out of there that costs them 1 more to play, right? To slow them down a little bit. So it's a good card. All right, moving along. Lumen Glass Frigate. Lumen Class Frigate. I can read. 2 mana, 3/5. My problem is I'm already reading this stuff by the time I'm reading the titles. My bad. So it's 2 mana for a 3/5 station. Blah. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 for 2. That's worth. And then 12+ is flying lifelink. But you're going to use it as an anthem effect anyway. So Glorious Anthem was one of the first of the creatures you control get +1/+1 sort of thing, right? And so we call them anthem effects. And this anthem effects are anything that like mass pump your creatures. We had specific pumpers before, like Bad Moon, which pumped all of black creatures. But Anthem was the first one that pumped all your creatures. It didn't matter what color they were, and didn't pump the opponent's creatures. So we call them anthem effects. But it's other creatures you control get +1/+1. So even once this becomes a creature, it won't get that value. But that doesn't matter. It's a 2 mana thing that is pretty easy to justify the expenditure of the 2, right? To station it, right? To turn it into an anthem. Because you can just play a creature with summoning sickness that doesn't need to block that turn, right? And then station it. Or you can play something with warp to station it, right? And get that value. So I do like this card. I think it's good and limited. I think it's an A. It's not an A+, but it's a good card. Anthems are often very good and limited, just not, top tier. All right, Pinnacle Starcage. Whoa, look at that art. Whoa, okay. So, 3 mana, when this artifact enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this artifact leaves the battlefield. So So we've had something like that in enchantment form. This one is each non-land permanent. It's not just artifacts and creatures. So what's a bit spooky? So it's not just all artifacts and creatures. This is only artifacts and creatures. So it's not going to take out. Importantly, it's not going to take out your seam rip. Your seam rip is still going to be fine on the battlefield if you play a Pinnacle Star Cage, whereas temporary lockdown would take out your seam rip as well. So we've seen this effect before. It's very powerful and constructed. It's less powerful and limited unless you are extremely very, very much controlling deck. Or your opponent has gotten off to a really fast start. So if your opponent's been like, okay, I'm like triple and double and triple spelling on turn like 4, and I've got like a million 2-drops right on the board, maybe 1 3-drop, then you can take out all the 2-drops with this Pinnacle Star Cage. The point about this one though is once you get to 8, once you get to super late game, you can put them into their owner's graveyard and then make a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each card put into the graveyard. So if you exiled 3 artifacts and creatures, you can make 3 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature tokens. Notably, they can't be tokens. The ones that you exiled, they have to be cards. So you have to have, like, if you exile like 3 creatures, it's possible you could exile like 3 or 4 creatures with this, but it's likely you only exiled like 1 or 2 cards, maybe. It depends when you get this and what the board state is. But it's 2 or less. It's not like 3 or less or anything like that. But you sacrifice the artifact at that point, and that goes like that. So if you can get to 8 mana, right, without this dying, they're not going to get their creatures back. You're going to be putting them in the graveyard and good evening, Voter Hide. You're going to be putting them in the graveyard and getting your robot tokens. But you have to build your deck around it a little bit so that you don't get punished by, right, having mana value 2 or less, right? You will get, this counts for your own too, right? This counts your own creatures. So if you have some creatures on the board too that you allow to get exiled, as long as you can make it to 8, and I don't exactly know how slow this format is, so this will get better based on how slow it is. As long as you can get to 8, you can get the value out of this. The fact that it is an artifact means that as long as you get more value than they do, like let's say you exile 1 of yours and 3 of theirs, even if it gets destroyed, I think you're still okay. But I do think you have to build around it. And temporary lockdown was not good and limited for the most part. Unless you're extremely controlling. Extremely. And that was very unlikely to be that controlling, that you cared that much of a value 2 or less. So I do think there are games where this can be pretty great. But I also think that it's going to require work and some good luck to be the case. So I'm going to give this a B or C+. It might even be lower than that. But I'm tentatively going to think that it might be interesting just because, like, let's say you get to late game and they have a bunch of 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature tokens. You can exile all of them. And you won't get the 8 mana value because they're just tokens, but neither will they be able to destroy your Star Cage and get their tokens back. So I'm interested to see how this actually plays out in the actual limited format. I do think it's going to see constructed play if this is going out of standard. So anyway, next, the Siriema. 1 and 2 white legendary spacecraft. Okay. When it enters, search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. For 3 mana. No. No. Okay, so this other tapped legendary creatures you control have indestructible. Okay. No, I think this is Oh, your phone hurt? Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh. Let's just call it Ma and go from there. Okay, so so we've had, you know, search your library for what were they called? The 4/4. Okay, hold on. So white do Thalia's Lancers. That's what I was thinking. Thassa, but it's not Thassa. And I was like, Thassa's blue. It's not gonna be that. So it's Thalia's Lancers. So this was this effect on a 4/4 first strike body for 5. So you could search your library for a legendary card. It didn't have to be a creature. It just had to be legendary. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. And so this is 3 mana for that effect, but you don't get a 4/4 first strike body on with it. And you have to search for a creature, not just a legendary card. So, and how many legendary creatures really are going to be in this set, I don't actually know, but I don't think there are enough to justify this card. Now, if you have a bomb that you absolutely must fetch up, that's a legendary creature, then maybe you run this in the deck. But for the same reason that the old things were really bad that did this, right? This was a fine card. It just wasn't good. You almost never actually did this thing. You just played as a 4/4 first strike for 5 at the time because that was decent enough in Eldritch Moon, but it wasn't a top tier rare at all. So, but like this one, I'm not a fan of this. Again, I'll have to do a count for how many legendary... If someone wants to do a count for how many legendary creatures are in this set, let me know. This would have been a way better set for Final Fantasy. Like the card for Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy had a metric ton of legends there. Like this, legendary creatures. Like this would have been great for Final Fantasy. But unfortunately, I don't think it's as good here. There are a few legendary creatures. We've seen like one already here with Halia. But, you know, some of the best cards here are not legendary at all. There are 15 legendary creatures in this. Okay. Are all of them good is the question, right? Is any of them good enough to spend 3 minutes to fetch up and like use your turn that way? I don't know. 7 is not too hard to get to fly. But again, that 7 is still like a bunch of attacks and blocks you could make. So again, we still have this problem of evaluating spacecraft and figuring out exactly how good it is in terms of doing this. It's a bird from South America. Oh, cool. I wonder if this looks roughly like it. Hold on. Oh, it might look it. Oh, it's cute. Large, long-legged, territorial birds. Are these like things that like kick you to death or like do that? Okay. Okay, no, they're not going to do it. All right, cool. Oh, that's neat. Does it sort of look like the... Not really. But interesting. Wait, who? What? Wait a sec. What? What? Is it a terror bird? Who's asking this and why? What's... Okay, but what were terror birds? Okay, a family of... Okay. The more you know. Okay, anyway, sorry. Rabbit hole. I'll go down that later. Anyway. So, toucan, you think? It's definitely interesting. We'll put it that way. So okay, so we've got this. I just don't. The 7+ is not bad. It's pretty cheap for based on the other spacecraft that we've seen. How much they cost to do. The effect, I just don't think it's valuable enough. I'm gonna be giving this a C+. For now, and again, it could go up or down based on the play. But 15 legendary creatures, and I don't know how good all of them are. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, Sunstar Chaplain has a lot of feelings in this image. Okay, so this is the first artwork that I've had a problem with. Like, and no like nothing like issues like that, but like I just don't think this person took anatomy. Sorry. Like I really like the way the robots are drawn. They're really amazing, and I like the way the armor is done, but this head is too large. This arm goes off in a very strange angle. This arm is too short. Sorry. This leg isn't long enough. The quad, like, yeah. Anyway, moving along. Sorry. I can't do better, so I should shut up. But like, it bothers me, this art. Sorry. 2 mana 3/2. It doesn't trade well. However, at the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That can get pretty big pretty fast if you're using things to do stations, etc. Well, I love this art. This art is fantastic. Like, I haven't seen any art that I have disliked so far, except for this one. Like, the way the faces are drawn are really cool. It's just the proportions and the anatomy that's all off. I like the coloring. I like the, like, it's yeah. And I'm just picky about that sort of thing. And maybe I'm even wrong too. Maybe my eyes are just off today. But anyway, you can pay 2 and remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control to tap target artifact or creature. So you can slow things down. 2 mana for a 3/2. You agree that the proportions look weird? Yeah. I okay, so it's not just me. It's just me and you. Sorry. Okay. So I don't know how to evaluate this one very well. It doesn't trade well until it gets a counter on itself. I don't know exactly how easy 2 or more tapped creatures are. Obviously, one can be attacking and one can be stationing. I do like the control value here, but removing a +1/+1 counter is a real cost because we rely on +1/+1 counters for various synergies that we saw in the white. So, for example, the double strike spell. So we like this one. Whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter dies, create the 1/1. That's important to still have the +1/+1 counters. The dual sun technique gives double strike if you have a counter. From what you've seen, it's slower speed. Okay, interesting. In draft or in sealed? or both. Sealed is usually slower than draft. In theory, it's not always. These days, sometimes it's not. It's really interesting. It used to always be, but it might not be. But I guess you get value. I almost would rather it be a 2/3 just because it dies so easily to the shock that's in the set. And the -2 from the black. So it dies to depressurize, it dies to the other cheap removal spell, which is Tragic Trajectory. It dies to the red, like, but they do have to spend, you know, a decent amount to do it. So it's okay. I'm gonna give it an A. I don't think it's an A+. It might be a B+, but I'm gonna give it an A for now. I think it's, I mean, this put a +1/+1 counter on the 2-tap. That's probably gonna get difficult to handle really quickly. I really hope they have something with other art for it though, because I can't stand looking at that for very long. It offends my sensibilities, my very, very like weird art sensibilities. No, but look at the arm though. And look, like the, and look at the leg. Like the leg, the anatomy is not, yeah. Anyway, I used to draw. I used to draw. Anyway, even if the head were slightly smaller, like the proportions of this arm are off. Like, yeah. Anyway, sorry. Okay. You don't associate magic with spaceship and spaceman. Yeah, I know a lot of people who are having that same problem where it's just sort of, it feels like another theme set, like you know, magic things wearing detective hats, and magic things wearing like deerstalkers, and magic things wearing cowboy hats, and so on and so forth, and just putting on different hats for like the time being. I know that is not everybody's cup of tea. I'm interested to see, you know, the rest of how it goes, and so on and so forth. But I do understand that Magic is primarily a fantasy set, as opposed to a subsection of fantasy that is called sci-fi. And this is sci-fi. So I get it though, but like high fantasy as opposed to sci-fi. I understand. So it is a little strange. I totally understand, like, you know, the idea of where is this mana coming from? How are we doing this in magic? But it's magic in space. Snakes on a plane. Sorry. Consult the star charts. 2 mana, kicker 2. Look, lands in space. Yes. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put one of those cards in your hand. If the spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Ooh. So I like the versatility of this, right? So if at the baseline, it's 2 mana to look at the top 2 cards of your library and put one of those cards into your hand. It doesn't fill up your graveyard because the other one goes on the bottom of your library. But at 4 mana, right? Let's assume that you have 4 lands in play, right? You look at the top 4 and pick 2. So that's a decent ROI because we've seen that before in what was it? So this card is still a better one because it's top 5 for 4, for the most part. Only you don't get the second choice. You get the first and third. So this will get you 3 cards as opposed to 2. But this has flashback, which gets you value later. So this is an infinitely better card. For whatever reason, they just decided to go back to a little bit but the versatility on this one is you can, if you're in desperation, just pay the 2. So that's important. So Memory Deluge is another one that I think Hellfire was mentioning here. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this spell. That's the mana spent, not the lands you control, but it's a similar principle. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order, but it also has flashback. So this does not have flashback. It just has the kicker. So I do like the fact that you can cast it for 2, though. That does give you a mini anticipate, right? Here's the anticipate. Edge Case, thank you so much for that. Holy shit, 50 months. Thank you so much for your support of the stream. As always, you're amazing. So this one is look at the top 3 cards as opposed to 2. You put 1 of them in your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So you're sort of getting a mini anticipate, right? Using the Console the Star charts. So this means this is not really so rare that I'm going to heavily, prioritize early. Usually because I haven't seen anything really that rewards me for casting instants and sorceries, so we're not getting extra value off of that. That said, it's a 2 mana spell that can trigger, double spelling. It can refill your hand a little bit, gives you card selection, so it's still a fine card. I'm still going to put it at a B/B+, as opposed to any of the others here. Stock Up is a ridiculous card and is a mess. So Stock Up is way better. Look at the top 5, put 2 in the rest into your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library in any order is a pretty crazy card for 3 mana. That's just a return for 3 mana that we haven't really seen before. On the other hand, this is an instant. We've had a lot of sorcery versions of this before. So if you look at... okay, I lied. Memory Deluge is an instant, but this is a sorcery. So it is worth remembering that this is an instant. So that's something to keep in mind, because again, you can keep Consult the Star charts up while you keep up the Quench that's in the format, the 2 mana, unless your opponent pays 2. So that is, a certain amount of value. Here it is, Divert Disaster, right? Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. If they do, you create a lander token. So this is something to hold up while you're considering doing that on their turn as well. Not great though. Still, I'm gonna still go with B or B+. Probably B. All right, Emissary Escort, 2 mana 0/4. This creature gets +X/+O, where X is the greatest mana value among other artifacts you control. For 2 mana, and it's an artifact on the board. That's pretty sweet. There's a lot of artifact tokens, which aren't very good with this. Stations are, in fact, artifacts, and a lot of them have a very high cost. But they're not going to be down early, usually. So... I'm trying to think of the most expensive artifacts that I've seen early. One of the things you can do is warp in an artifact that's quite expensive. Actually, that's one. Okay, so you can go. I need the 6 mana. Yeah, Mechanizoa. If you warp this in on turn 3 and have an Emissary Escort in play, this Emissary Escort is attacking for 6 on turn 3. And you've maybe tapped down a creature using the Mechanizoa. This card I love, by the way. I'm so in love with this card. I love this. It's so good. I'm not as in love with this as I am the Kavu, but like I'm close. But yeah, so this is a great card. I really like this card. But yeah, this works well with that. See you, remote error. Have fun. I hope you sleep well, and I hope tomorrow goes well. All right, so Emissary Escort, 2 mana, blah. It's probably a 2/4, for 2, which is not bad already for 2. And it's also an artifact to play early. It blocks well. Hi, Brat. So Yeah, I think this is a fine card. I think I'm gonna give it a B plus or A minus sort of ish. Like, it's a good card. I'm not like super excited to first pick it. Still good, just not crazy. All right, here's a legendary creature. Memnon, the Right Hand. 5 mana, 3/4 flyer. It is a jellyfish advisor, which alone is winning the game, because that's awesome. I always want jellyfish to advise me. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast artifact spells from the top of your library. Artifacts you control have tap, add blue. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. Hi, Steel City, how you doing? I hope your stream was lovely. I hope you were having fun. Welcome, Raiders. We're just going through the rares and mythics and a first look for limited. Hey, Bio, thank you so much for your 100 biddies. I really appreciate it. So we're just looking at a very stupid card. No, this is good. Okay, this is crazy for limited too. You have no. Okay, so to have 5 mana 3/4 flyer, not an unbelievable return on investment for blue. Blue can do better than that. Absolutely. We've already had, since the dawn of time, we have had things like Air Elemental, which was a 4/4 flyer for 5, right? Brad was very rude to Steph. There was Mill. Oh, unforgivable. Unforgivable. Jail for Brad. Jail for Brad for 1,000 years. Okay, so that's not okay. Nobody called for Mill. Oh, you played Gate Crash Limited? Oh, I think I know what we were talking about. Oh, geez. Okay. So like I said, this is not a great ROI. It's still within reason for like an uncommon, right? At this point, right? 5 mana, 3/4 flyer is within reason. But the fact that you can look at the top card of your library at any time, you have that information about what's coming up and you can plan accordingly. Your opponent doesn't see it, so you're not playing with it revealed. It's not like Oracle Moldiah or anything like that. You can cast artifact spells from the top of your library. That's the key part here. There are so many artifacts in this set. So many artifacts in the set, and this can be built around, and you can do all sorts of things like that. But not only that, but your artifacts can help you cast the artifact spells from the top of your library as well by adding a blue mana, right? Only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. They can help you cast further cards. This is sick. This is a gross card in limited as well. I know you think it's going to be great and constructed, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to be lovely in my blue artifact deck. But yeah, you can cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. They can also cast exiled warp spells. Yes, absolutely. Good point, Wingspear. So your warp spells are going to be exiled, and that's not in your hand, and therefore your artifacts can tap for blue to cast those spells from exile. So this is a great card. I am slamming this. I think this is an A+ card. I don't think it's an S tier necessarily, just because, again, that 4 toughness is very vulnerable. You need the noodle in your boat stack. Great. It's just a little bit vulnerable, as we were talking about, to the red removal here. It's not an artifact, so it's not vulnerable to the artifact-based removal, which is pretty sweet, but it does die to the flying removal that we've seen in green. It dies to the depressurized in black, as well as the non-conditional removal spells in black, like Embrace Oblivion and where's the 4 drops? It dies to this if they had Void, but that's less concerning. That's an uncommon. Vote Out would destroy it, and then there was another 4 mana destroy effect, exile effect actually. I think it was, and I missed it. I'm sorry. It's somewhere in here. Right here. Grav kill. So exile target creature or spacecraft. So it dies to those, but more notably, like at common here, it dies to bombard, right? And cut propulsion in red. So that is, worthy of consideration, just as far as it's a little bit vulnerable with a 4 toughness. We were already talking about this in terms of the angel as well. This angel is vulnerable to the same things. So just as a note, but they do have to find that removal. And in theory, you can actually get value out of this, a little bit of value perhaps the turn you play it, just because again your artifacts can start adding like mana. Like if you play this and you have 3 or 4 artifacts out, that might be able to cast something from the top of your deck anyway, like the turn you play it. So I do really like this card. I think this is an A+ card. I think this is very good. It's not S tier, but I think it's A+. Okay, Moonlit Meditation. Okay. We have definitely seen effects like this before. It's enchant target artifact or creature you control. The first time you would create 1 or more tokens this turn, each turn, sorry. You may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanent. So let's say you don't place this on a legendary thing, just, for blah. Let's say you place that on a Quantum Riddler. That means that when you create a lander token or we've got mostly lander tokens and robot tokens, they would become copies of this. They would enter the battlefield as copies of this. So that's nice if you can get it all to work. Statistically, you need to have a lot go right here. So was it like Mythics something? No, that was an ooze. Dang it. Blue. 1. Dear. Enchantment. So, it wasn't metamorphic alteration, but I was thinking of this. Whenever you put a token to play, it becomes a blah. There were various versions of this thing before. We've had a couple of them. But the problem with this is it does nothing when it enters. So it is leaving you open for a 2-for-1. Number 1. So you always want to play it into opponent being tapped out. Absolutely. And you always want to play it into the ability to make that happen. So you pay the 3 mana to play this, targeting an artifact or creature you control, opponent is tapped out, and you have the rest of your mana, 3 or 4 other mana, to make tokens, to do something that makes tokens. So, for example, if you have Moonlit Meditation on, and you have the Cosmogrand. So let's say you have another creature on the board, you Moonlit Alteration that, and then you make, you cast a second spell and make 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, but they become copies of whatever that is. Or you target the Cosmogrand and get more Cosmogrands. That's the idea. You need to be able to, in theory, like to maximize this card and not be really worried about it. You need to be able to do it the turn it comes into play. You need to be able to take advantage of that value the turn it comes into play. And so Magical Christmas Land card is pretty close to being what I would describe this as. It's not that hard to make happen with this, with the sheer number of tokens that's produced by this set. However, I do think this is asking for a 2-for-1 a lot of the time. I do think it's kind of asking for a lot to go right. I think I'm probably going to lose to this several times, but I'm gonna put it as a B/C+ for now. Enchanting Core Steel Cutter, yeah. Yeah, if you're doing constructed, you can do all sorts of stuffs. So I just you're gonna have to have a creature on the board. You're gonna have to be able to make the tokens at the same time. Your opponent's gonna have to be tapped out for you to really maximize this card. And I just think that so many things have to go right, therefore, that it doesn't get to be in the A tiers at all. And I don't think it's a B plus. I think it's probably a B or a C plus. It might even be less than that. I'm not sure. But again, it would be lovely to live in that world, and hopefully we get to at some point. All right, Quantum Riddler. It is a Sphinx. We have a lot of Sphingies around here. So, this is a very good card. Anything with the warp is really good. It's got a really low warps cost. That's really amazing. It has an ETB. That's also key. So we have a warp 2 when it enters, draw a card. So you can pay 2 mana to draw a card, put a 4/6 into play, tap it to station your spacecraft, and then go from there, right? It's also a 4/6 body for 5 and flying, and that actually does survive a lot of the removal. Not all of it. Actually, no, sorry. It survives more removal than the 4, a lot more removal than the 4 power things. But there's a few cards that it also still dies to, of course. But this is just a really powerful card. I really like this. I think it's an A+, but it could actually, this one could elevate. I'm not sure exactly yet. I think that's just so much value. Be able to warp it for 2, draw a card, replace itself essentially there. Even if they kill it, you've at least gotten the card out of the deal. If it then goes into exile, you can play a 5 thing later. It stations pretty well. This is, yeah. So I think this is an A+, but it could end up being S tier. So again, some of the other things that have been A+, obviously, the right hand here, the Sunborn, the Reclaimer, and the Beyond the Quiet. Other things have been A for the most part, but there have been a few things that have been Bs. All right. Next one, Starfield Vocalist. I want this so badly for one of my EDH decks. I want this so badly. I really want this card. So, this is 4 mana for a 3/4. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. With a sheer amount of ETB effects, right, enters the battlefield effects on creatures these days, this is a crazy card. So obviously what we have here, not just creatures, but other things entering the battlefield. So we have a mini Yarok at this point. So this is Yarok the Desecrated, but much easier to cast, much easier to kill, and yeah, pretty crazy, and only requires a commitment to blue, right? Like this is, and a warp cost as well, so you can get it happening early and late, right? So this is pretty sick. I don't know exactly how to rate this one. Obviously we discussed how much value warp has for double spelling and for void, and for doing all sorts of things. So already it's very high on that thing. I think I'm gonna give it an A. I don't think it's an A+. Again, it requires a few other things to do, but I think it definitely gets an A. I think I'm picking it over almost all the uncommons and commons, of course. Even the mythic, even the mythic uncommons to some degree. But yeah, it's just a really good, solid, great card. Like it's just not as crazy as some of the ones we've seen at the A+ level. Starwinder. Oh, cool, a new Leviathan. The last Leviathan we had was Sin. Did you know it's a Leviathan? Sorry. And then we also had Leviathan. The Leviathan genre grows here. So we had Summon Leviathan here, right? That was this. And then but it turns out that Sin is also, it's gonna give me everything starting with SIN, isn't it? I don't even remember what the Sin extra thing was, but I'm probably gonna be able to find it pretty quickly. There can't be that many things with Sin in the name, I'm sure, right? Don't call me Shirley. Okay. Anyway. I can find it much faster than this by actually just searching. I give up. OG Leviathan is best Leviathan. Oh, yeah. Spira's. Yeah. That was definitely part of it. Yep. Spira's Punishment, right? This was a Leviathan, which I actually saw a streamer figure out after they cast Leviathan to try to get rid of Sin. So that didn't go so well. But yes, anyway, we now have more Leviathans, which is always fun for, this card in Constructed. So yeah, anyway, Starwinder, 7 mana, 7/7. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. Holy crap. And it warps for 4. And it basically can crew a lot of the stations, not all of them, a lot of the spacecraft, sorry. Station a lot of the spacecrafts, not all of them, but a bunch of them, most of the way. This seems very good. I'm going to give this an A+. I really like this card. I don't think it's S tier, but it's a good card. I really like this card. I like it because you can time it with the warp cost to a turn wherein you can damage the opponent and get a good 2 or 3 cards out of it. And also station your spacecraft. Seems fine to me. I might be overrating it, but I think that's a really good one. All right. Synthesizer Lab Ship. 1 mana station, 4/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one other target creature or artifact creature you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 2/2 and gains flying until end of turn. Was the Little Ophidian an artifact? No, it wasn't. Did we have anything else that gets advantage from hitting the opponent? I think this is still good. Because there's a lot of tiny artifacts that we cast that are 1 mana things that... wait, does it say non-creature? Oh, I like that. Wait, okay. So actually, this card goes really well with one card that we know about. Let's go to the end. Okay, fine, previous thing. Okay, so if we go to the bottom here, there's so this little indestructible nutrient block goes really well with this card. So you've got your nutrient block sitting on the battlefield, just being an extra artifact to trigger those synergies of how many artifacts you have on the battlefield. And waiting for the time where you need to sacrifice it to gain 3 life and draw a card. And it's indestructible, but you can turn it into a 2/2 flyer to attack with indestructible flying every turn. That seems like fun. It's a lot of work for very little reward, but still. But the thing is, if you don't need to crack a lander token, you can just throw it as a 2/2 flyer in the air. I like this card. I like this card. I think I'm going to give this I'm gonna give it a B plus slash A. It's not gonna do anything super crazy. But it seems pretty sweet overall, just as a fun mechanic. I'm gonna give it a B plus. I'm gonna give it a B plus. It's a fun one. I'm sure there's a combo with it that I'm not thinking about somewhere. But the nutrient block just amuses me. I want to throw food at people. It's indestructible. Anyway, sorry. So it's just one other target artifact. So it can be a creature, right? You can have like a 1/1 creature and you want to throw it. Yeah, food fight, exactly. You can have a 1/1 creature and you want to throw it at them. That's fine. As a 2/2 flyer, that's better. It's an upgrade. So it's like getting sort of a vehicle upgrade of like hitting with a 2/2 flyer. That's fine. Obviously it's pretty expensive to make a 4/4 flying vigilance, but this effect is pretty good and it's very cheap to play, and it's an artifact on the battlefield that is going to do those synergies. It's also a 1-mana spell, which enables your two spells per turn synergies as well. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a B plus for now. Could be higher. I don't know. Weft Walking. Oh, I think I heard about this card. I think this is one that was going around on the socials. So 6 mana. When this enchantment enters, if you cast it, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards. Okay, so this is stupid. So here's the thing. In limited, this is probably way better than in constructed. And here's why. By the turn 6, right? And turn 7, or whenever you're actually going to play this, your opponent's usually down to like 1 card or 2 maximum, right? And you're now getting 7 cards with which to work. So they may be able to outvalue you, right? With their 1 or 2 cards, but it's unlikely. You just have so many more resources than they do. So there are, I think the risk of it is mitigated by that. So they can cast they're in theory taking from the top of their deck, and yeah, they can cast it for free, right? One spell. Butter, good night. They can cast 1 for free, but you have 7 cards. Like in theory, you can set this up to be quite advantageous. I don't know exactly how it's going to play, but I think in limited, because you're not refilling your hand as easily, I believe this is pretty nice. Because in limited, the omniscience type effects are less powerful overall, and the draw effects are the key. Your opponent will absolutely benefit from the free spell first, absolutely, but again, they've got like maybe 1 spell in hand, maybe it's a removal spell, maybe it's a large creature, but you then have the choice of 7 cards with which to counter that on your turn, and you can spend another 1 for free. Like you can cast 2 the next turn, most likely, even two of the most powerful, because you can play the first 1 for free, and then the next one you can use your mana for. So I feel like this is a very good card. I feel like it's, yeah. I feel like in limited this can do quite a bit. I'm still gonna give it an A. It's not like a windmill slam craziness yet. It might be. I don't know exactly how it's gonna play, but I could be an A plus. I could be an S. Who knows? I don't know how this is gonna play, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is quite good and limited. Like, if you're already dying, then probably not. You don't want to give them a free spell. But, like, if you are, you know, if you're anywhere near parity, even if you're just slightly behind, I think you still cast this card. Especially if the cards, if you flood it out, holy hell, yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, I think this card is good. I think it's probably good. Hey, Space Rodeo, I hope you're well. I hope you're happy and hope you had a good stuff day. I can type. There we go. Welcome, Space Rodeo. Welcome, Raiders. We're doing a limited set review. This is the Mythics and Rare portion. The Uncommons and Commons are already on YouTube. Here's the YouTube link in case you want to say hi. Yeah, you don't want to cheat this in. You want to wait till they're mostly empty in their hand, of their hand, so that you can really take, get value out of it. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, Alpha Rail Stone Chosen. I choose to be chosen by stones. I choose... Stones choose me too. Choosing this. Okay, anyway, sorry. The stones are making decisions, and they're choosing this person. So, 5 mana 3/3. That's not a good ROI, so let's see what we get for that. Discard a card at random for ward. Okay. Whenever it attacks. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Whenever it attacks, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, that's the normal void wording, defending player loses half their life rounded up. Space Rodeo, they'll have to actually discard a card. They have to have a card to discard at random. They can't pay the ward if they don't have a card. Echo 5, welcome, welcome! How was your stream? I hope it was lovely. And how did the charity stream end? I hope that was really cool. So basically, when this attacks, you're only going to get the trigger of defending player losing half of their life if you warped something in, or if you sacrifice something, etc. The ward is pretty annoying to pay. But for 5 mana, I still don't like this card. Am I being picky? Am I not seeing something? So this is 5 mana with double black on a 3/3 that, yeah, has a ward, discard a card at random, but like, And then, but you don't get this even this effect. 1800 for extra life? That's awesome, Echo 5! And it dies to everything, right? All the removal, basically. I don't like this card. I'm probably going to lose to it, but I don't like this card. Why does this cost 5 mana? Like, I know Void is pretty easy to have happen. It's pretty easy to have happen. But 5 for a 3, and even, ugh. And it's only going to get that effect once? Give me this card any day over this one. This card is so much better. It's so much better, and it's only 3 mana. It does have to connect, but this thing dies and isn't going to do it again. If this dies, it just comes back. Like, anyway. Okay, so we've seen this effect of like losing half their life rounded up once things connect. We've seen it in Unstoppable Slasher. We've seen it in Quietus Spike. We've seen various things like this over the course of the game. And this one seems not good. I'm probably undervaluing it somehow, but I'm going to give this a C+. Yeah, half-life might just not be matter. It's a 3/3 attacking. Like, protecting it is difficult, and like it's so much has to go right, and 5 mana for 3. Ugh, no. Anyway. I think it's bad. Anyway, Archenemy's Charm. I'm gonna go with C+ for it. It could even be below that. Archenemy's Charm, 3 black mana. So this is an echo of a lot of we had so many charms over the years that are triple commitment to a color. So triple pipped, and then do choosing things. And so you can see another one here. What? Yeah, sorry. I was typing too quickly. Archmage's Charm here, right? Choose 1 counter target spell, draws 2 cards, gain control of blah. So we've now got Archenemy's Charm for black. Choose 1, exile target creature or planeswalker. That's decent. Return 1 or 2 target creature and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. If this is a slower format, that's also quite good as a return on investment. Put 2+1 on counters on target creature control. It gains lifelink until end of turn. This is fine. It is 3 black. We do have lander tokens to fix our deck and our mana, so it's not as horrible cost potentially as it seems. Despite the fact that we have almost no fixing lands in the common slot. We just have and uncommons. We just have the command bridge. That's it. So we're really counting on those lander tokens to find us the basic lands to fix our mana. So this card is a little bit difficult in limited, but if you are like 2 colors, if you're mono black, go for it. Just slam this card, right? But this is a little bit difficult in 2 colors, but shouldn't be unmanageable with the number of lander tokens that we have. This first mode, exile target creature planeswalker, is going to be pretty valuable. And again, the fact that it has the versatility of being able to offer you these other choices as well is pretty neat. Okay, I'm gonna give this one. This is obviously not like, I think this is a B+ card. It's a good card. It requires a little bit of work. It doesn't do the most amazing things compared to what we would normally want for an A or an A+ card, so it's fine. Chorale of the Void. 4 mana, enchant creature you control. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, put target creature card from... Fascinating. So, any enchantment or aura in limited has to be very good. It always has to be very good because it is always asking for a potential 2-for-1. So if you target a creature with an enchantment or aura, they remove it in response, you get 2-for-1, right? That's the idea. This is a very powerful effect. Potentially. Some things have to go right. The opponent has to have a good creature in the graveyard. And by a good creature, I don't necessarily mean a big creature. I mean a creature with a good ETB, or, you know, something like that. This spell is not going to want to be played on turn 4. You're going to want to play this on turn 6 or 5 or 6 at least, because you're going to want to double spell with a warp creature. So alternatively, if you're absolutely certain that the creature that you put into play from their graveyard is going to die, or another of the creatures you're attacking with is going to die, then you can play it on 4. But you have to guarantee that, or you're going to lose this enchantment. So it is safer to put this on a creature that can attack profitably, grab a creature out of their graveyard after you play a warp card. So the best thing that comes to mind to play with this is still one of my favorite cards. This one. So if you can play this on 7, right? You're going to get to keep the creatures, most likely, because this can tap something down that could block profitably, so that you get to keep both this creature that is and this enchantment and their creature, and get to do it again the next turn. So that is the ideal circumstance for this card. That said, if you can just finish off the game this way, if there's enough value in putting this in grabbing the creature from their graveyard and throwing it at them, consider it like a threaten effect. No, it wasn't this. It was from Ravnica, I think, the newer Ravnica sets. Hold on. So consider it like Macabre Mockery. Put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gets +2/+2 and gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So consider it like that, but for an easier casting cost to some degree. It does require you to have a creature on the board, but you have the possibility of being able to keep this enchantment if the creature that you put it on is like a flyer, has any evasion, and can't be blocked. And you can play a warp, or something's going to die. So this is an interesting card. It has definite purpose, filled with a glorious purpose. Anyway, it's a fine card. It's not a great card. It requires things to go right, but those are the use cases I can see for it. You can either wait until the end where it's a really good finishing move that might also, if they have any sort of small interaction, might get you another turn with it, or you can use it as a game finisher earlier on, where you just don't care that the 4 mana